This is going to be a multi-part review, due to taking over 9.5 hours of my life completing the original NES trilogy, and I wanted to have this video out by Halloween. Part 2 will be done when it's done. It's October, and you know what that means? Spoopy, and nothing else. Anyway, Castlevania to me is strange. I enjoyed the series, but never owned a physical copy of any of the original games other than Order of Ecclesia on DS and Castlevania The Adventure for the original Game Boy. And the one that I played the most is Symphony of the Night, since I bought it 3 different times digitally, but I never properly sat down and played through the original 8 and 16-bit games. And with the help of that Game Boy who paid $6.79 for this collection and then gifted to me, and then told me to play through each game in the collection. Today I'll be looking through the Steam, PS4, and Switch versions. Now, the Castlevania Anniversary Collection without a discount is $20. And even at $20, it's worth it. Seeing how a lot of these games tend to go for a lot more money just for the one, but the collection covers the original NES titles, Castlevania 1, 2, Simon's Quest, 3, Dracula's Curse, Super Castlevania 4, Castlevania The Adventure, Castlevania II, Belmont's Revenge for the Game Boy, and Castlevania Bloodlines for the Sega Genesis. And Kid Dracula for the NES. Anyway, you also get the Japanese versions of the game, except for Simon's Quest for some reason. It was released in Japan, even though it was released for the disc system as well. Anyway, let's begin with the original Castlevania. But before I begin, let me change the Steam grid because Konami is lazy. Originally released in 1987 for the NES, Castlevania, and as Akuma's Dracula, which translated to Demon's Castle Dracula in Japan, it is challenging yet beatable with one of the most bullshit enemy placements, bullshit pattern, and brutal difficulty. But I really enjoyed my time playing it. Castlevania 1 has its issues, but how solid the gameplay is, with its simplicity, it's a fun yet difficult experience. There is a lot that has been said about Castlevania, so there isn't much I can add. Set in 1691, you play as Simon Conan Belmont, or Belmondo in Japan. As a descendant of the Belmont clan, you must travel through Dracula's evil castle, Castlevania, to fight and kill Dracula along with his minions like Medusa, Frankenstein's monster, and Death himself, with the final fight being Dracula. Control-wise is a simple game, using only 2 buttons, one to jump and the other one to attack. And you use your items with a combination of pressing up and B at the same time. The items you get to use to your advantage are a dagger, axe, and a clock that freezes time. Overall, Castlevania 1 is fun, yet difficult, and I can still recommend it. Now let's move on to Castlevania II, Simon's Quest. Okay, let's get this out of the way first. Oh my god, Bloody Tears is an amazing song, and even with its 8-bit rendition, the song still holds up. Okay, moving on. So Castlevania II, set in 1698, a couple years after Castlevania 1, you continue the Simon Belmont story by trying to find all the pieces of Dracula and kill him again. The game has the same basic gameplay as Castlevania 1, but it has this pseudo-RPG system, with hearts used as currency and with experience points. And I can dig it. But it just isn't handled properly. You got towns to visit like in Zelda 2, but this time they're multi-story towns. Anyway, in these towns you can buy weapons and whip upgrades, restore your health, and talk to local townsfolk. Now there's an infamous day and night cycle, where the game pauses and tells you, what a horrible night to have a curse. Also, this is a banger song by the Black Dahlia Murder, which I highly recommend. And then the world changes to nighttime, where enemies roam in towns, and there's nothing you can do about it other than to kill time. It gets rather tedious because you can't skip the text, and you are forced to survive the night every time. There are these dungeons where you explore through it and find an orb to throw a stake through it. Sometimes there are bosses you can just walk through the room and ignore them. It's a mess. You level up, buy upgrades, kill enemies, die, rinse, and repeat. There's nothing much that can be said about the game before, and out of the NES trilogy, it's aged the worst. Mostly because it had potential, but it just wasn't done right. And overall, just kinda boring. Hell, even Dracula is an easy as hell boss to fight. Overall, Castlevania II just wasn't handled properly, and it suffered from bad sequel syndrome. Just stick to the soundtrack of this game and nothing else. Moving on to Castlevania III. Castlevania III, Dracula's Curse, returns to its roots by being a straight-up level-to-level platforming game like the original Castlevania. This time, it's a prequel, by playing as Trevor Belmont, or Ralph in the Japanese version, the second earliest Belmont, who plays like Simon in Castlevania I. Set in 1476, you travel through the land on your way to defeat Dracula and its minions. Throughout the journey, there are forks in the road where along the way you can save some people and ask them to join you on your adventure. There are a total of 3 characters that can join you in your adventure, but you can only have one at a time. You have Grant Dynasty, who has a short dagger and can use the same sub-weapons as Trevor, but has the ability to climb walls and ceilings. He is the most agile and really fun to play. After that, you have Sypha, who uses some sort of wand to bonk people and uses powerful magic and is generally a glass cannon. And finally, you have Alucard, the son of Dracula and kind of the worst hitting party member. He has his dad's fireballs that can be upgraded 3 times, but does the least amount of damage. He can use the clock to stop time and change it to a bat and avoid enemies. Honestly, Alucard doesn't get cool until Symphony of the Night, but by God, he's absolutely useless in Stairs and can't do anything. Because of having 3 extra characters, there are multiple endings, but the ending I went for was the one with the character I used the most, Sypha, because she did the most damage, and in canon, she gets with Trevor. That's it. And like Castlevania 1, this game is surprisingly difficult, but it's fun and challenging to complete. It's honestly the best of the 3. Now, the soundtrack of the game is great, from the song like The Beginning all the way to the Vampire Killer remix when you enter the castle. Now, I am going to talk about this a bit more later, but the Japanese version of Castlevania III uses a completely different soundtrack, with the songs sounding overall different there. Overall, Castlevania III is the best one of the NES trilogy, but 1 isn't bad either, and you can just ignore Castlevania II. Now, I'll see you guys in the next part where I'll talk about Super Castlevania IV, Bloodlines, the Game Boy duology, and Kid Dracula. I'll see you then.